Hey, all, this is Tim Dean with Violet Crown Travels. And today I want to talk to you about travel insurance, something that even myself didn't do for the longest time, didn't had coverage for the longest time. And now I will never travel without travel insurance. And let me talk to you a little bit about that and maybe answer some of your questions if you have any. We always have this attitude that things are not going to happen to me, things aren't going to happen to us. But that's one of the reasons we have auto insurance. It's one of the reasons we have home insurance. We may never use those insurances, but we have them in case something does happen. Same thing goes with travel. You put a lot of your hard-earned money into travel dollars, and just for a fraction of your budget of what you spend in your travel dollars, you should earmark some of that for travel insurance. And there are all kinds of travel insurance. There's all kinds of levels and inclusions and exclusions of travel insurance. And let me clear some of that up right now. Can't do it all, but let's talk a little bit about it. There are different types of insurance based on what your needs are. You could have medical only insurance on a cruise or your vacation only when you're traveling. You can have medical coverage that will include pre-travel, like on the way to your destination. You can have that included before you travel. You can have coverage for cancel for any reason. There are a lot of different insurances that don't let you cancel, but you can actually upgrade your insurance policy that could allow you to cancel for any reason. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a little bit. And in some cases, you can get a refund from your travel insurance in the back of a refund back to your card. Not all work that way. Some work on refunding back to credit. For example, a cruise line may only credit you back towards your account to where they want you to cruise again. So if you spend $5,000 on a cruise, they'll credit your account to where you can use that $5,000 towards another cruise with their cruise line. Not that where you're getting a cash option back to your credit card. You can also do different add-ons to your insurance as well, where you can add on for risky adventures like rock climbing or parasailing or hot air ballooning. They not all travel insurances will cover that. So you'll need to make sure you are covered if you plan on doing those things. And also car rental. So not all insurances will cover that. So that's a lot of stuff. Um, that insurance that will cover trips and cancellations, interruptions, not all do that. And you want to make sure that you have that because there are all kinds of disruptions in travel. And you want to make sure that if you can cancel, you can cancel for any reason, and you'll need to upgrade for that to do that. Now, like I said, most policies don't do that in their system. It can cover miss flights and connections with the right insurance policy. Let's say you miss a flight, you are delayed, you miss your connection. These insurance policies can help you with those unforeseen travel uh, issues as well. Delayed or stolen luggage. It happens. I had a friend of mine that lost her luggage on our Alaska cruise, and she did not get, but from the cruise line, only $300. That was the maximum that they paid. With third party insurance policies, with different insurance policies, you can actually get more reimbursement for your lost or stolen luggage. You can even get compensated for luggage that get delayed coming to your destination. So that being said, let's say you were headed to Miami and your luggage didn't get there until the next day, or whatever. You're having still to buy things that were in your luggage to replace it that you might need for that foreseeable future. Also, to upgrading the insurance works on the amount, because your luggage bag alone might equal $300, and then that's all that covers. It's not covering your the things that you may have inside there. If you have a really nice dress or really nice shoes that cost you a couple $100, this is something that you should consider when you are also traveling. Insurance policies can also cover weather related disruptions. We have, a lot of hurricanes in the Caribbean, and those that would be covered if you have the right insurance policy as well. Uh, you know, a lot of people travel during hurricane season and go on cruises during hurricane season, and it's not uncommon to have your travel plans disrupted by the hurricane. Also, we recently had a tsunami out on the west coast, and those ships were affected by the tsunami. There were a few cruise ships out of Hawaii that were affected by the tsunami, and they actually had to leave earlier and leave some passengers back at the port. So there are weather types of activities that you should be concerned about, and whoever can predict a tsunami. And that actually, what the tsunami was originated by, an earthquake, underwater earthquake. It also covers you can cover medical expenses and evacuation. So let's touch on that for a second. Most of U.S. based healthcare companies, like Blue Cross Blue Shield or United, whatever you might have, do not cover when you're outside of the country, and that would be problematic for you if you were traveling and you're not covered. So it could be quite expensive. So you might want to check with your health care before you consider traveling without insurance to see what is covered and what is not covered. But more than likely, it's not going to be covered by your current insurance if you're traveling outside the country. Uh, and then most of those countries will require you to pay up front. So as you're negotiating, trying to figure out what's going to happen, that for you to get care, they're requiring you to pay that up front, and you need to make sure you have a credit card that's capable of uh, absorbing that as well. You could actually just get sick on the cruise and during your travel. But on cruise, a friend of mine recently came back and had the flu, and she had a bill of $533 of her medical bill. Luckily, she had insurance, and that was compensated. But that all adds up. So her insurance plan paid for itself just on one time. And like I said, you never know when you're going to need uh, travel insurance or when there's a medical issue going on. Just an ibuprofen from the infirmary is over $1 a piece, uh, and it could cost you $150 just for an infirmary visit if you're sick on a ship, and they're going to require you to pay that up front. And having the travel insurance, the right kind of travel insurance, can help you take care of those costs when you get back. Hospitalization on the ship, there was a man that had the flu, and they didn't let him go back to his room, and he was confined down into the infirmary area for 2 days. And when it was all said and done, his total medical bill from the cruise ship was over $40,000. And he did have insurance, which compensated some of it, but he was still out $15,000 that he owed for his medical stay in the infirmary. So you want to make sure that you're covered. That is very important. Recently is in June of 2025. There was a man and woman in their 60s, Muhammad and Julia. Julia had a heart attack on the ship on a sea day. So they were out at sea, not in a port. She had a heart attack, and really bad. They stabilized her, but they needed to medevac her off of the ship. In the meantime, Mohammed did not have insurance, and so they were negotiating how this was going to get paid, and he did not have it. By the time he ended up having to pay for it, I think, with a credit card. But by the time that she got evacuated off and she got to the mainland, uh, that she died. And he believes that she died because of the delay of getting her transported, and this was all haggling over insurance. How are they going to pay for the medevac? So you don't want to delay. In this situation, it's life or death. You definitely want to make sure you have health insurance and or the medical insurance that you need for the travel. It was extremely important. So you can get injured, broken foot, broken leg, and in Europe, and you got to change flights, you got to get back home, you're not able to stay, and your whole trip is disrupted because you're no longer able to enjoy your trip. So all those things can add up. Just a medevac from Nassau back to Miami is $20,000, and that's just for that. So you want to make sure that you're covered because these things can be quite costly. And again, your health insurance is not going to, more than likely, not going to cover you when you're outside the country. You may think it does, but it's not. Um, there are some exclusions to a lot of these policies as well. There are pre-existing medical conditions exclusions that you need to make sure you read all the fine print. Uh, Also, there's up to certain limits on medevac itself, so it's not going to completely cover you. Just because you may have the medical coverage, you may have a maximum of $20,000, and if the medevac and all that kind of stuff adds up over 20, you are responsible for the difference. So there are different levels of those uh, levels of coverage. So when you do have to file for your insurance claim, you want to document everything on your trip. So I'm telling you up front, giving you a pro tip, document everything from the very first beginning of anything happening, any emergency happening, document it, get all the paperwork, get all of the reports, everything that you need to document. So when you get back, you have the documentations to file your claim. Insurance companies do not want to pay out, right? And so they're gonna nick and pick on every bit of documentation that you might have. So document, document, and then document again. um, Cruise lines offer insurance coverage, but many times they are more expensive and have less coverage than third party uh, insurances. That and there are a lot of them out there, a lot of third party insurance companies that you might could get probably get better deals from the cruise line. It's easy to click on the insurance policy as you are booking your cruise on the cruise line. Very easy, very easy to navigate, but your coverage limitations are not going to be as good. And the cruise lines really want to give you back credit for that cruise line, not back in a cash option. Pre-existing conditions are very important. The cruise lines do not want pregnant women, 23 to 25 months pregnant, or weeks, sorry, weeks pregnant, to travel. And so if you purchase the cruise and then find out you're pregnant after that, and they're not going to let you buy the insurance after that. And so there are some stipulations as far as that goes. Um, Another little tidbit, that if you travel during hurricane season, that let's say you didn't buy the insurance and you see the storm brewing out into the Gulf, and you're not able to buy travel insurance after the storm's been named. So once it gets named a storm, you're not able to go online and purchase the travel insurance to help save your trip. They're just not going to let you do that. So you want to get it way ahead of time and not worry about those types of things as well. You might also really that consider, we talked about it earlier, the cancel for any reason option. It does cost more money to have that cancel for any reason, but here's what you can't predict. You cannot predict that someone's going to break their leg 3 days before the cruise. You can't predict whether there is going to be a birth in the family that you're having to um, cancel to go to a birth, or any type of event that could mean that you need to cancel. So it is something to consider if you can afford it, the cancel for any reason rider to your policy as well. And insurance just won't cover anything. Is you got to make sure you read the fine print of what it will and will not cover. For example, it's not going to cover hazardous activities, bungee jumping, rock climbing, scuba diving, parasailing. It's not going to cover if you are dumb and do something stupid, whether it's an alcohol related incident or illegal drugs. It's not going to cover that stuff. So there are exclusions and exceptions to these insurance policies. Luggage claims, we talked about a little bit. There are limits to that, but different policies have different maximums as far as luggage, and you might something to explore and check out different options of insurance policy limitations on some of the luggage that you might have. And um, you don't need to buy insurance for every single trip that you do. You can, but there's also options of doing an annual insurance policy, travel insurance. If you are traveling, 3, 4 times a year, whether it's cruises or just traveling across the United States or going to Europe, it might be something to look into in a policy that will cover you annually for you and your family. There are policies that will cover everybody in your family while you travel on that trip. So it is something to consider moving forward as an annual option for trips. It's not just covered by cruises either. So if you're traveling away over 100 miles away, it is covered. So it could be a road trip that you're heading to Georgia or Louisiana, and you're just taking that trip. You can be covered as well if it's over 100 miles. Whether it's again, delayed travel, things like that, accident. So this covers that. So what your own in the states, what your own insurance will not cover, this will kick in if you're traveling in the United States as well. Other things that to consider that you might have to cancel for. We talked about that cancel for any reason. You have jury duty and you're not able to get out of it. A tornado, whether it's damage to your home or your neighborhood or a disruption in your travel, a car accident, attending a birth of a loved one. Let's say you're having your first grandkid and you didn't know it at the time you booked the travel. Now it's coming up and it's really, really close, and you don't want to miss it because your cruise is going to be a week and you just don't want to miss the birth of your grandchild and you want to cancel. It's something to consider, a cancel at any time policy as well. You could get laid off from your job and no longer be able to afford that full trip, and maybe want that cash option back, especially if you got laid off. That's another thing to consider. Anything happening to a travel companion that you're no longer able to go with them, that is something else. And let's say also if you're in another country, you're in Cozumel and something happens to one of your children back in the States and you need to get back as quickly as you can, some of these travel insurance policies will cover helping you get back to the United States because it's because of the emergency. So lots of different factors, lots of different things when it comes to insurance, and we're just scratching the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, on insurance. But then you ask yourself, well, how do I navigate this, Tim? Well, I can help you with that. I can help quote you some different insurance policies and show you some different things and talk about the limitations of different things. And so I would be happy to help you with that when you think about travel insurance. And so please consider it. I just wanted to educate you a little bit on some of the uh, pros and cons of travel insurance. And like I said, if you're wanting some more information and you would like for me to help you with a quote on any type of travel insurance, contact me, please.